Hey friends, how we doing? Hopefully you had a productive session 2 with us just recently and wanted to recap some of the learning from that session as well as remind you of some of the work we're asking you to do independently between now and session 3. And so session 2 was really all about diving into the first D, detect, from the DDRS framework. And again, we're going to be building upon detect next session, and then getting into disrupt, reframe, and eventually surfing. But for session 2, we really identified and explored the ways that being self-aware or having self-command over your own saboteurs and your own judge brain can help you to better detect when the saboteurs that are prevalent for you are showing up and arising or playing themselves out in your mindset. And so in this past session, we really kind of talked about how the judge, the autopilot negative brain is always running in the background, some of us more than others, but then the accomplice saboteurs, right? These self-sabotaging mindsets and or behaviors can really partner with the judge and make things difficult for us. We also talked about the origin of these saboteurs, right? How saboteurs or self-sabotaging mindsets, beliefs, and behaviors really begin at childhood as a way to maneuver a new learned environment, right? To vie for the attention of our caregivers, right? To get fed, to get coddled, to get attention, to maneuver relationships with siblings or members of a family, how to make friends, how to interact with other children on the playground or on the school bus. Whatever it is, we develop these beliefs and mindsets as skill sets to navigate and survive our early livelihoods. And eventually, they can turn into detrimental mindsets and behaviors when we overuse and abuse those. They become these saboteurs, and they work not only in tandem with our judge, again, of self, of others, or of circumstances, but sometimes, as we discussed in some of your share-outs, your saboteurs, particularly your top saboteurs, can work in tandem with one another and kind of add fuel to the fire. And so we discussed and reflect last session on how your saboteurs are potentially having a negative impact on different areas of your life, such as your performance at work, or as a friend, or as a parent, or spouse, or partner. How these saboteurs can negatively impact your relationships, professionally and personally, on your overall well-being, right? So are your saboteurs running so rampant they're making you sick or making you uneasy all the time, or preventing you from sleeping, or keeping you up at night, keeping you jittery, whatever it might be? We explored how your saboteurs are possibly holding you back and impacting you in these negative ways. And so this week's independent work is going to be based, again, on now starting to track your reps in terms of your performance goals and your key performance indicators. What steps towards your key performance indicators have you taken or will you take between now and session 3? And tracking that progress. What we track and monitor gets measured, gets done. And if we don't have a system in place, things can kind of tend to fall to the side as less important. And so the idea of tracking is to help you to visualize your progress, but also to help remind you as a measure of accountability. And then your last assignment for between now and session 3 is going to begin to track when you start to feel these saboteurs arising within you, right? So let's say that you are someone who has a high level of pleaser saboteur, and you are in a conversation with a client, and they're a demanding client, and they're irrational, and they're demanding things of you in a really unprofessional and unkind way. And instead of kind of redirecting the conversation or having a professional talk about how you can be spoken to or what is within your scope of the work, you just kind of bend over backwards beyond reasonable expectations and allow them to disrespect you, and you just keep doing the things. You're always available 24/7. You're never having time to put the phone down or the laptop down, or you're always trying to meet these unreasonable demands of a certain client. So how does that feel, right? So begin to track when you start to notice your pleaser being activated in your job or in your personal life. That's an example. Maybe you're hyper rational. Maybe you are a hyperachiever. Whenever you start to notice and detect, and we're going to get really good at detecting our saboteurs in real time, you're going to track it down and make note of it in your journal for this experience. And so hopefully these reminders are helpful, and hopefully you are having a good experience. I can't wait to see you all for session 3. Have a great day.